Hello, everybody, and welcome into the Apples and Genos Fantasy Hockey Podcast. My name is Nate Groot-Niblink. I'm the creator of Apples and Genos, originator of the Zero G Draft Strategy, and contributor to Yahoo Fantasy. In this podcast, Blake and I are going to give you all the best streamers and ad options for next week so you can start planning early. Let's get it. Now, of course, I have your friend and my best friend, Blake Creamer, with me here tonight. Blake, how are we feeling?
Of course you have your best friend. We're inseparable, Nate. You're never getting rid of me, all right? You thought Josh was going to take over my spot? No. All right, I'm back and I'm ready to rock. Buddy, I'm doing well. And I've actually been really enjoying these daytime hockey games the last couple of days here because I've been off the last couple of days. I was able to watch the full games. That Ottawa-Detroit, that was a barn burner, man. Did you catch any of that?
No, I saw the scores updating throughout the day, but I wasn't able to catch any of it. But yeah, it was back and forth for sure.
The NHL should do that. Give us some afternoon games during the week, just for fun. You know what I mean? I guess there's no money in that, but there's a niche market for that. Am I right, Nate? Come on, give it to me.
For sure
All right.
there is. I definitely did not tune into the Leafs game at 2 p.m. today while I was working from home. So
No, he would never do
I
that.
would never dream of such a thing if my employer's listening.
How about those
So,
Buckies, those blue Buckies on the Leafs? What do you think of that?
yeah, they apparently that was like a brand new rule change. I didn't even realize it was a rule, but yeah, they changed the rule that existed so that you can wear the opposite color helmet to whatever jersey you're wearing, and yeah, I mean something
What a,
different.
yeah, what a world we live in. Unbelievable.
All right, Blake, why don't you take us in, get us started with some newsies here?
Newsies. Oh, yeah, we got some stuff going on here. Some interesting stuff. First, I got to talk about Brandon Montour and Aaron Ekblad making their return to the Florida Panthers lineup. They've been activated off of long-term IR. So it's great news for the Panthers. Yeah, and they're both in the game tonight. So that's good. I checked the box score. Nothing really doing. But what is interesting, actually, is Oliver Ekman-Larsson is still quarterbacking power play one. What are they doing? Why are they doing this to us? I don't know. But they got Montour and Ekblad on the second unit there. So that's a choice, right? But I would expect that Montour will eventually take his spot back there. But I don't know. OEL's running it for the time being. So just keep an eye on that deployment. Also over to New Jersey, we got to talk about Jack Hughes. He is almost ready to go. He's going to be a game time decision on Saturday. So that's solid news there for the Devils. Nico Hischier is still out. And Timo Meier is out as well with a short-term injury, but we'll just got to keep an eye on his status moving forward. Also in the Global Series today, Jake Wallman actually took a hard fall into the net or the boards there, and he looked to be in pain. He had to be helped off there. So we have to wait and see. There's no update on that, but Jake Wallman could be out. He's like a deep league streamer. Am I right here, Nate? Jake Wallman?
Yeah, I've streamed Wellman a few times. Yeah. Usually provides some shots and hits, and you hope one bounces off some people and goes in. So
yeah, he's a low-key source of goals, actually. I think he double-digit goals. Anyways, he's injured, so it doesn't matter. So keep an eye on that. Over to Buffalo, all right, Eric Comrie, that beautiful, beautiful man, and Zach Benson activated off the IR as well and played in the game here. I put in my notes, Comrie could be a 0G option as no one has been able to really claim the crease in Buffalo, and then he promptly went out and lost 3-2 to the Jets. Oh, Nikolaj Ehlers with the GWG, the game-winning goal. We love that here at Apples and Genos. Thank you, Nikolai, for your service. Eric Comrie, get the hell out of my sight. But that's fine. I don't know what they're doing in Buffalo. Who do you like? Do you think they're just going to go with Levi moving forward? I mean, that's a three-headed monster there in Buffalo, and no one's really going with it, Nate. What do you think?
I think Buffalo is trying to win this year, and they're desperately searching for someone who gives them the opportunity to do that. My thing is, I think Buffalo's problems go a lot deeper than whoever's in net for them on any given night. So, at least by the stats that I've been looking at so far this season.
Right. All right. Well, that's not an answer, Nate. All right. Damn it. All right. What are you doing? All right. Let's stick with Buffalo. Should talk about the power play changes they've made there with Tage out. So just an update here. Power play one looks like it's Alex Tuck, JJ Paterka, Casey Middlestat, Jeff Skinner, and Rasmus Dahlin. And then on the second unit, they've got Zach Benson, Kyle Okposo, Dylan Cousins, Owen Power, the Power Glove, and Victor Olofsson. So yeah, Cousins I thought might be a candidate to move up on that line, but the top line, but they put JJ Paterka there. So that's interesting. Cousins did nothing tonight. I streamed him in. Thank you for your service. Oh, buddy. It could be a little bit ugly there in Buffalo. I don't know. I did a buy low show yesterday and I put Rasmus Dahlin on there. What are your thoughts on Dahlin, Nate? Because his numbers are not good. And, you know, I think he's pacing for 56 points or something like that, but it just hasn't been a great season. Nothing close to what he was able to do last season.
Yeah, I don't think my perception of Dahlin has really changed just based on the early season here. Realistically, I think Dahlin is not one of these like elite shot generating defensemen that we talk about a fair bit.
Right.
He's never really been that. Last year was the best shots per 60 he's put up since his rookie season, and even that was not anywhere near elite levels. He is really efficient, always has a high IPP, definitely drives play, so he definitely does that for you, but yeah, I just don't know that he's ever going to be like the extreme goal scoring guy. And to get to the upper echelon of point scoring, you usually have to put up close to 20 goals, right? So I just don't know if he's that guy. He's still going to be a guy who flirts with the 50-55% IPP, which is absolutely elite for a defenseman. And he's going to shoot 7% plus. Right now, the on ice shooting percentage is down from last year. And it's hard to say whether last year was the anomaly or if it was a sign of the team taking a step and they just haven't quite been able to get back and untrack this year with some of the injuries they've dealt with. Obviously, Thompson out now. That's where a little bit of this is getting held down. If you go by the underlying numbers, like you don't really see anything that makes you worried about Dahlin from an on ice perspective, even from the team perspective in terms of offense. You don't really see that there. I'm pretty much exactly what I thought Dahlin was. I think he still is. The one thing that is also holding him back a little, he's down about a minute and a half average time on ice so far this year. So that's definitely not helping.
Dahlin is who we thought he was, and we let him off the hook. God, random sports reference. All right, let's keep going. Over to Anaheim, talking about Trevor Zegras and Jamie Drysdale on the Ducks. Head coach Cronin. I forgot the man's first name, so I'm just calling him
Greg.
Greg Cronin. That doesn't sound as mean, actually, if you just say Cronin. Sounds like, God of War or something like that. I don't know. He says the recovery is going to be tricky with these injuries. They're both lower body injuries for Zegras and Drysdale, so we're going to have to be patient. That's not good, though. That's not a great update there. To me, I've got Zegras in a couple spots, in an IR spot, so that's fine. I'm holding him there. But yeah, obviously this sounds like it's an injury that was nagging for him for a little while, and he's trying to get it sorted out now. So no update there, and it's not great news in my opinion. All right, let's move on to New York. We're talking about Igor Shesterkin. He looks to be back and good to go for Saturday's game. It's not 100% that he's going to play, but he went through a full practice without restrictions. So keep an eye on his status, but he should be able to go on Saturday. Okay. Over to Arizona, Barrett Hayton, that, absolute unit. He's out for 4 to 6 weeks before he was able to pop off like Nate and I called, right, Nate? That's really crappy news for Hayton. Sustained the injury against Columbus, and I think he needs surgery, so it's 4 to 6 weeks for the recovery there. We need to see who bumps up in his absence. I think it's got to be Cooley, I would think, going to the top line, but who knows, right? We got to take a look at the game day lines and see what happens there, but Cooley's already on power play one, so who gets on power play one in Hayton's absence? Is it going to be maybe Nick Bjugstad? The Jughead Nick Bjugstad. I don't know. What are your thoughts there in Arizona and what's going on with their deployment?
Yeah, I think from a fantasy perspective, we obviously want it to be Logan Cooley in the game. Hayton got injured fairly early on, and it was Travis Boyd who took the spot there with Schmaltz and Clayton Keller, which is obviously completely uninteresting for fantasy purposes. I would hope that it means good things for Logan Cooley, but I'm not gonna, just hang my hat on that's exactly what's gonna happen.
Okay. 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 We got to talk about Columbus and the crap show that's going on there. Johnny Gaudreau and Patrick Laine benched in the third period in Thursday's game. This is rough stuff. I mean, I don't know, man. Like you play hockey, I played hockey. I don't get this as a motivating factor. You know what I mean? Like maybe one time he's benched Gaudreau already, but like these guys are pissed off. Laine's breaking his stick on the bench. Like I don't see the outcome that the coach is trying to get by benching these guys. Like you're committed to these guys long term, money wise. You got to get them out there and you got to get them confident. I don't know. What are your thoughts on Laine and Gaudreau in Columbus, real quick, there, Nate?
Yeah, I think when I saw it happen one time, I was like, okay, coach has a motivational tactic. Maybe it'll work, maybe it won't. And it doesn't really factor into any of my thinking. Now that he's continuing to do it, it's just kind of like,
Yeah,
you know what? These guys are professionals. Johnny Gaudreau has multiple massive seasons in the NHL. Like, what you're doing here is playing mind games with the star.
yeah.
Like, I don't know, maybe just talk to the guy and try to put him in a good position to succeed and let him work out of the funk that he's in. I don't think you're doing anything there. So I'm not a huge fan of what's going on there. Obviously, it makes Goudreau and Line even less helpful for your fantasy
Yeah,
rosters
unfortunately.
in the at least in the upcoming future. But I'm still holding both those guys. The talent's just too much there, and they do have
Yeah.
a really good schedule upcoming. Not this week upcoming, but the week after. They have a perfect schedule upcoming, so I'm definitely going to hold them at least through that.
Yeah, absolutely. I've seen lots of people dropping Line and talking about dropping Line, and I'm not here for it. Like,
No.
what are they going to do? He has to figure it out, and they have to figure it out. He's healthy. So, I'm holding both those players as well. Buy low on the Columbus Blue Jackets. All right. And then lastly, we got to talk about the LA Kings top power play. We had a Byfield sighting, Quentin
Mm-hmm.
Byfield sighting, just as Nate predicted. What a seer of seers. Oh, man. So if Dubois PLD has injured, but it sounds like the injury is not as bad as previously thought. So he's being reevaluated. But in the meantime, it's Byfield season. Get him on the power play and let's see what this kid can do. He's been amazing. The kid's a ridiculous skater, great offensive instincts. So yeah, are you stoked on this, Nate, or what? Do you have him anywhere?
Yeah, I'm pretty excited. I have him in couple. I think that he's got a lot of ceiling. It really is seeming like all those physical gifts that everybody knew he had are starting to come together for him and starting to click, and he's being rewarded for it here. And yeah, I mean, the ceiling really is the limit for a player with this kind of natural gifts. So it's going to be really exciting to see if he can really put it together here. With some hopefully some continued top power play time.
Yeah, absolutely, buddy. All right. Well, why don't you take us through week 7 and the garbage that it is?
Unfortunately, you are absolutely right. It is complete garbage. On Monday, we have 7 games. Tuesday, we have nothing, 0 games. Wednesday, 14 games. Thursday, again, nothing, 0 games. Friday, 15 games. Saturday, 8 games. Sunday, 5 games. This is peak NHL that we've got going on here. So it's 49 games in total. It's actually still a light week, but just because of how heavy those Wednesday and Friday are, we actually get up to a decent total games played for the week. Obviously, this is a terrible schedule for streaming purposes. Yeah, you're going to have to find creative ways to stream this week, that's for sure. There are 10 teams that have 2 off nights. That's pretty much all you can look for, right? So you have the 3 off nights, the Monday with the 7 games, the Saturday and Sunday, Saturday with 8 games, Sunday with 5 games. Pretty much you just got to choose one of those teams that has the 2 off nights that play on the Monday and then again on either the Saturday and Sunday. And that's who you go with because that's about all we've got going. So one thing you can look at is to go for one of the number of teams that have the Monday and Saturday off nights, and then pivot to the Columbus Blue Jackets, who I mentioned. They have the Sunday game, but then they also have the best schedule, the 4 off nights for their week 8. So that's one thing you can look at is to try to get that early switch over to Columbus on the Sunday. You get the Sunday game, but you also get a terrific schedule for week 8. So that's maybe the one nugget I can glean out of this schedule for you this week. Really, there's no fun schedule quirks to talk about, like back to backs early in the week that you can get get in. I usually talk about the Monday, Wednesday off nights and the Friday, Sunday off nights that a few teams have. There's none of that here. We have just life, death, taxes in the NHL, having atrocious schedules. It's what we've got seemingly every week this year. Like, what have we had? One or two good streaming
Yeah.
schedules on the season? Anyway, I digress, but because the schedules are so atrocious, one thing I thought I should mention is you're probably not going to stream very well. Streaming well is when you can really get a lot of games out of your streaming spots and use one ad to get like three extra games played. Like, that's streaming well, right? Like, that's using ads really effectively. So this week you're basically you're gonna have bench players on the Wednesday and Friday games, Friday nights. There's pretty much no way around that. So basically, what I would suggest then is that this makes players from teams with bad schedules not so bad to hold through this week. If you have some players, you're like, man, I probably should be I should be dropping this guy. He's not going to play for me. You're gonna have players that are not going to play for you this week. So, if there was a week to hold a player with a bad schedule, this would be that week, in my opinion. Um, Also, in weeks like this, you should consider rostering an extra goalie or two, depending on your settings. Like, if you have a fairly rewarding settings for goalies in a point setup, or if you need some extra saves to secure that category in your Cats leagues, you might be able to layer some starts here and get better results streaming goalies rather than skaters, because oftentimes your goalies, like even on super heavy nights, you're not getting two starts out of goalies. So take a look at what you expect to happen with the goalies. It's obviously hard to predict a whole week out in advance, but it may be a situation where it even makes sense to roster like four goalies this week, and have layer in a bunch of starts throughout the week if you can get a few goalies, maybe even the backups from teams that are playing the four games this week. You may be able to get some extra games in that way. All right, Blake, why don't you start us off with the worst teams to stream from, teams that we may consider dropping players from this week?
All of them. Oh, no, we're not going to do that. But yeah, this is brutal, man. The NHL is like, we're like the redheaded stepchild of, the sports world, right? They don't care. They're like, whatever, just, push the NHL, right? We got a Wiggles concert to do. All right. Dang. Yeah, it really just takes away our ability to use strategy, right? And then we just, have to hope that we have the players that particular week and that we drafted well, right? That's showing no good. All right, let's get into the teams. First team with a truly atrocious, shocking schedule. Ottawa Senators have one game, and it's on the busy Friday. Damn, that's really rough because they have some great streamers on that team, like streamers with benefits, fringe players, right? So, I mean, this is going to be an interesting conversation because I want to see where you're at with this, Nate. And I'll preface this, like, in these type of weeks, do you ever consider just taking an L and holding some of the players that you're interested in? Like some of these players that we're talking about on Ottawa, Drake Batherson, Josh Norris, Tarasenko, not Matthew Joseph so much. He's a drop. But, with Batherson and Norris in particular, are you dropping those guys this week? Or are you holding and going like, I'll just take my chances. And if I take an L this week, I'll take an L.
Yeah, I think in this week in particular, because the schedule, like in a week where there were great streaming schedules to be had, and I could actually get, yeah, like three extra games played out of getting to a streamer, it would be much more of a conversation. But when I already know that I'm not going to be efficient with my streaming this week, I'm really not that interested in moving off of guys that I think have long term viability for my roster. Batherson, definitely. Like, he's up to 6 points his last five
Yep,
games,
he's looking
including
good.
three goals. 47th in shots per 60 is the big number there. It's starting to trend back up for Batherson. I think he's definitely a hold. Norris and Tarasenko, 3 points in their last five games each. Tarasenko's ice time down under 16 minutes, neither of them producing well under the hood. I still think I'm trying to hold on to Norris if I
Yep.
can. Tarasenko, I'm honestly willing to let go at this point. And then, yeah, obviously Matthew Joseph, if you streamed him in because he's been hot, 6 points his last five games, absolutely, I'm dropping Joseph this week if there's anything out there worth grabbing.
It sucks too. Joseph is actually really good. Like I said, I just watched that whole game and he's flying out there. Like he just makes his line good. That's great analysis, by the way. But yeah, Matthew Joseph, I like the player. Six points in his last 5, pretty nice. But yeah, he's a drop. Tarasenko drop, and I'm a total agreement with you there. But yeah, it's a really good point, and I just want to reiterate that, right? We don't just drop at all costs because they have a bad schedule, right? We have to think about the season as a whole. And a guy like Drake Batherson and, to a lesser degree, Josh Norris, they can help you moving forward, right? So something to consider. All right, let's move on. There's 2 other teams that also stink, but not as bad as the Senators. We're looking at the Vegas Golden Knights and the Washington Capitals. They have 2 games with 0 off nights. Damn. All right. Yeah, Washington plays the Wednesday, Friday, and then Vegas plays Wednesday, Saturday. So, Vegas, that Saturday, you can get some guys in on Vegas there. But yeah.
Yeah, I think I put that in wrong, actually. Vegas should
Yeah.
have an off night there.
Yeah. So that's all right. So, but thinking about Washington, first off, like, who are you dropping on Washington? Like, we're looking at Kuznetsov, who's ill right now. He's getting a ton of minutes, but I don't think I'm holding Kuznetsov through this kind of gross stretch here. If I can pick up one of these teams that has 4 games and a couple off nights, I'm probably doing that. And then I don't know, Strome is probably a drop as well. But what do you do with Tom Wilson in this week there, Nate?
Yeah, Tom Wilson probably comes down to whatever your setup is. He's still getting strong minutes, 18 and a half minutes the last 5 games, got 3 points. Underlying numbers are not good for anybody in Washington right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They've normalized into a point where they're going to be, I think, a little bit of a middle of the pack team. The last little bit, it's not been kind. They've gone downhill again. So we'll see how things continue to trend from here on out. But last little bit, they've not looked very good. So I'm willing to move off of Wilson again if there is something out there that is actually pretty interesting and will actually get me some games played. But I'm not just gonna punt Tom Wilson just because, especially if you're in obviously like a Bangers Cats or something, then Wilson's got a ton of utility and he would probably get snapped up if you did drop him.
Yeah, absolutely agree there. So as we said, Vegas does have 2 games with 1 off night. There are a couple other teams that have that as well, the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Minnesota Wild. So, and when you were looking at Vegas here, obviously we're keeping, Marchessault, Eichel, Stone. Oh God, there's some other Stevenson. What are you doing with Stevenson this week? God, Chandler Stevenson. Are you getting off him or what?
Yeah, I think I am. I feel like Stevenson is just the epitome of a replaceable player.
Yeah,
He goes
totally.
through hot streaks from time to time, just like any other player always ends up at like 60 points at the end of the season. He
Yeah.
goes through some stretches like, oh wow, Chandler Stevenson, and then at the end of the year you check back and yep, he had another 60-point season. So I'm fully willing to be off of Stevenson. Barbashev, if you had him. Braden McNabb's an interesting one for Cats leagues because he's all-time Banger Cats
Crushing.
god, hits, blocks, does it all. So that one's pretty interesting, and he's actually done all right in the points department this year as well, which has made him doubly interesting. So that one's a little bit more interesting if you're in a Bangers Cats format, but ultimately I think blocks and hits are just so replaceable on the waiver wire that
Yep.
if he's the last player in my lineup and I don't have an obvious other ad, I'm totally willing to be off of him.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned Barbie. Come on, Bobby. Let's go party. Gotta do it, Baba Chef. All right. Sorry, I just have to do that now. We're talking about Toronto next. So the players we're looking at dropping here, I think Max Domi's a clear drop. Bertuzzi, this is an interesting one because he actually had a really, really good game today and was kind of flying out there. So he becomes a little bit more interesting to me. I'm not sure where I'm at with Tyler Bertuzzi right now. What are your thoughts as a fan and just how you've seen him all year?
Yeah, I think the only player that I'm considering holding on to from Toronto is Bertuzzi. Of these kind of fringe guys, the
Yeah.
Domies, the Matthew Nyes, hopefully you don't have John Klingberg left on your roster anymore. Hopefully he's long gone. But yeah, all those guys I would kick to the curb, but Tyler Bertuzzi I am hanging on to. He's actually really come on as of late and started to kind of round into form to what we kind of thought he could be as a solid addition to this team this offseason. I still think his role is going to be limited, but 16 and a half minutes, he can be relevant for fantasy, especially as long as he's attached to William Nylander, who's
Yeah.
apparently a world beater this year. But Tyler Bertuzzi, in and of himself, 14th in shots per 60, 42nd in individual scoring chances 4 per 60, and 22nd in on ice scoring chances 4 per 60 over his last 5 games, doing all that without any power play one time. So really impressive stuff, honestly, from Bertuzzi over the last little bit, and I would definitely be trying to hang on to him.
Yep, absolutely agree. Let's move over to the Minnesota Wild, and we're looking at dropping Marco Rossi. Yeah, buddy, you did nothing for me. Get the hell off my team. All right, I happily dropped Rossi today off a team that I had him. So yeah, thank you for your service or lack of service. Also Ryan Hartman, right? It looks like Rossi is still actually he's centering the top line there. So they've got him with Cap and who's the other the Zucchini Man. Yeah, they got Rossi there. So who knows? That's good deployment, but with 2 games and 1 off night, I don't know. I'm not holding a fringe player there. Hartman, you're gone. Jared Spurgeon, you're gone too. All right. Spurgeon hasn't really taken over the power play like I thought he would there. So I'm wondering if that's still something that you think might happen there.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit inevitable. I don't think the 5 forward power play lasts forever. And eventually they'll replace one of the guys, probably Marcus Johansson, with Jared Spurgeon, I would assume, just because they don't really have anybody else who really profiles that way unless they want to try out Brock Faber for the first time in that
Right.
role. But he hasn't even really been getting power play 2 time at any point this season. So yeah, I do think that Spurgeon eventually will get that role and be adequate. Like, I think we know what Jared Spurgeon is at this point in his career, right? So he's definitely a back end of your roster player, but definitely a valuable one in most cases. But for this week upcoming, I'm willing to get rid of pretty much all those fringe guys on Minnesota.
Yeah, absolutely. Punt them to the moon. All right. And then there are 17 teams with 3 games and 1 off night as well. I'm not going to list all of those teams, but damn, this is just a really rough schedule here for streaming. So, remember what we said. You don't have to try and stream, right? I don't know that it's exactly worth it to try and pick up, these fringe players on teams that have off nights when you've got a perfectly good player in your roster that could be good the week after, right? So just something to think about. Let's move on to the best teams to stream for Cream. All right. Yeah, that's where we're going with that. That's how we get from A to B. All right. So there are 8 teams that play 4 games with 2 off nights. The Boston Bruins, Calgary Flames, Colorado Avalanche, Edmonton Oilers, Nashville Predators, the New York Rangers, the lowly San Jose Sharks, and the Vancouver Canucks. Again, all 4 games played with 2 off nights. We're going to go through some of the streamers on those teams now. Nate, why don't you talk to me about some of the streamers on the Boston Bruins?
Yeah, so I think the guy that I'm most interested in from Boston currently is actually James Van Riemsdyk, which is not something I thought I'd be saying, especially when Jake DeBrusk is 41% rostered on Yahoo. But honestly, JVR's had a nice little run here. He's got 6 points his last 5 games. He's on the top power play, 29th in individual scoring chances, 4 per 60, 30th in on ice Corsi, 4 per 60, 23rd in scoring chances, 4 per 60, averaging just over 15 minutes a night. So that's not ideal, but the exposure to the big guns in Boston is nice. And yeah, he's clearly feeling it right now. So James Van Riemsdyk is actually the guy I'd take there.
I like that. I knew you were going to say that. All right. We're looking at the same sheet, everybody. And I see these numbers. I'm like, okay, I know that Nate's going to like James Van Riemsdyk there. So that's good. Predictable, Nate. All right. That's fine. I would take him too, actually. He's on power play 1. So you got to like that. Calgary's the next team up, and they have some really viable streamers there on that team. So we're looking at guys like Nazem Kadri, Jonathan Huberdeau, who's sitting at 45%. How the mighty have fallen. Man, this guy had a 115-point season 2 seasons ago. Now he's on pace actually for less than he was last year. He's on a 46-point pace this year. This is unbelievable. What the hell? I mean, I don't want to digress too much, but what's going on with Jonathan Huberdeau, Nate?
Yeah, I wish I knew. It's pretty shocking to see just how far he's fallen. Like the underlying numbers are not good. It's not like he's just been getting unlucky. He's playing poorly, and it's hard to say exactly when that might turn around for him. He got bumped off the top power play. They did some really weird stuff with the power play the last game, just, I guess, trying to find something that would work. I don't know what the likelihood of that getting all revamped for next game is or not, but yeah, it's not looking good for Huberto right now. He had a nice little game there the other day, goal and an assist, but other than that, like it's been pretty bad for quite a while now for Huberto.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he is out there though, and I like that he kind of got the monkey off his back, right? 11 game goalless drought snapped, right? You could tell he was excited when he scored that goal. The fans gave him a pretty good ovation. So I don't know. He seems like he's a kind of a sensitive guy. Like confidence is, can be shattered. Maybe he's a little fragile. I don't know. Because yeah, I thought it was Daryl Sutter, but I don't know. It's the same old story here. So we'll see. But anyways, moving on. You can also pick up Noah Hannafin, 35%, and he was running power play one. Looked like last game. So like Nate said, though, it's all over the shop. They're I don't know what they're doing from game to game there, but Noah Hannafin is there. Mikhail Backlund is there. I think that's a viable option as well. 28% rostered, and then Andrew Mangiapane. 20%. So that's fine. Geez, there's a lot of these Calgary streamers. Look at this. Blake Coleman, Connor Zary. Are you interested in Connor Zary at all, Nate? I've seen this guy's name on the box score. He's putting up some reasonable numbers here.
Yeah, he's been putting up numbers. The underlying numbers are not great, though. I think some of it was just he was on the top power play for a while there, got a couple points in there, and so I'm not super interested in Zari. I'd take most of the other guys on this list above him.
Okay. And then you know what? I don't even know this man's first name. Pospisil? What's his first name?
Martin.
Martin. Oh, you remember that show Martin from the 90s with Martin Lawrence? Gina, damn, Gina, you know what I'm talking about? You're too young, Nate.
I'm
Damn it.
still too young. I was
You know
born in
who
the
Martin Lawrence
90s.
is? All right, just give me that.
I
He was
know
in.
who Martin Lawrence is, yes.
Okay, all right. Well, he had a show named Martin. All right, that's neither here nor there. Martin Pospisil. Shout out to Martin Lawrence. That's where we're going there. All right. So you can pick him up. He's 1%. I don't care about that. Let's move on. Colorado Avalanche. Bo Byram still out there, 32%. People are obviously not listening to the Apples and Geno's Fantasy Hockey Podcast. 32%. You would think we could get this guy a boost in his rostership here, Nate. I don't know. Although he has not been playing well, right? Not doing what he needs to do, but he's there, 32%. And how about Ryan Johansson? I think this is actually a really nice stream, 15%, and he's rocking power play one there in Colorado. So that's a great place to be. So I like that. And then how about our boy, Ross Colton? 11% rostered. He's out there. What do you think about Ross Colton so far this year? How have the returns been for you? As this is a player we were excited about, and he hasn't exactly hit the way we thought. He's still doing some amazing things under the hood, but it's not equaling production here.
Yeah, I think Ross Colton is unfortunately getting some of the same treatment he got in Tampa Bay.
Yep.
I don't know why he profiles this way to every coach that he's ever met, but he continues to just absolutely destroy things under the hood. 8th in shots per 60, 6th in individual scoring chances, 4 per 60 over the last 5 games. Has 3 goals, but skating less than 13 minutes a night. Yeah, obviously you can't really roster a guy consistently who's skating that low of ice time, but I do think Ross Colton is a fairly talented and effective play driver, and has been like quite efficient throughout his career, his young career so far as well. Yeah. I hope that someday he gets a chance because I mean Ryan Johansson is not doing it either. 33-point pace on the season. He
Yep.
has just 1.1 goal in his last 5 games, even being on the top power play. Like, give Colton a chance, guys. Let's just see. Let's just see what happens. I think
Yeah.
he could do some things. That's all I'm
Yeah.
gonna say.
It's a no-brainer. Listen to what this man is saying. All right, we need a pipeline straight to head coach Jared Bednar. Like what I think we could talk some sense into him, Nate. Let's work on that. Next up is Sam Girard as well. You can pick him up on Colorado. He was injured for a game, but came back and got a goal and an assist in 22 and a half minutes. I like that. So I don't know. He's there. I mean, 4% rostered. He's out there, right? So they do have that good schedule. Let's move on to Edmonton. The Oilers. God, God, they've been gross, but it's kind of nice. They have that new coach now, so they've got that new coach smell. That sounds terrible. But if you've ever sat behind the bench at a hockey game, you know what I'm talking about. All right. I don't know what I'm doing here. All right. Matthias Ekholm, 15% rostered. He's out there. Warren Fogle. Okay, so we jump from Ekholm to Fogle. That's the level of streamers here on Edmonton.
Yeah.
Sam Gagner, 1%. If you're rostering Sam Gagner, this is what we're talking about. Like, you don't drop a guy like Drake Batherson and go pick up Sam Gagner. You know what I mean? Just don't do that. Right. So he's out there, right, in a deep league. Like, if you're really, you got to get this win. Like, if it was the last week of the season, like, okay, you go out and you do what you need to do, right? But, you're not picking up Sam Gagner, but he's there. I don't know. Any thoughts on Edmonton, Nate?
Yeah, Gagner makes the list for me just because the last game he was playing with Nugent Hopkins and McDavid, which is about as good as you can get in terms of deployment. Ekholm actually has been surprisingly quite good under the hood. 12th in shots per 60, 12th in Corsi 4 per 60, 13th in scoring chances 4 per 60 over his last 5 games, skating just under 22 minutes a night. I've got some love for Ekholm as a streamer for this week.
Yeah, I like that. It's an underrated streamer, right? Because you don't think that unless you kind of do a little bit of a deep dive in there. So yeah, Matthias Ekholm for the win. All right, maybe. Let's move on over to the Nashville Predators. We're looking at ROR, Ryan O'Reilly. He's 42% rostered, and he's cooking right now. Yeah, like, this is not a player I am ever excited about, but he's performing right now. So we can't take that away from him. So he's out there. Gustav Nyquist, again, we went from Ryan O'Reilly. Now we're down to Gustav Nyquist at 2%, and then Cody Glass at 1%. He may or may not have power play 1 there in Nashville. I think he does. So yeah, I don't know.
At the moment.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, I think I know what you're going to say, but what are your thoughts on Ryan O'Reilly just as a streamer this week?
Yeah, I think he makes a fine streamer. I don't think he's really much more than that. He's riding some pretty unsustainable percentages to do what he's done so far on the young season. But overall, like, he's skating over 20 and a half minutes a night. Has been doing that all season long. He's hot right now, 7 points his last 5 games. I'm absolutely willing to give it a go with Ryan O'Reilly this week.
Yeah, there you go. I think totally reasonable. Yeah, he's getting a ton of deployment too. So let's move on. We're talking about the San Jose Sharks. They've actually done some stuff. It's not as bleak as it was after those the 10-1 and the 10-2 shellackings that they took back to back. That's insane. So yeah, things are looking a little better there. But Thomas the Turtle Hurdle, 35% rostered. Definitely good in a bangers format. I mean, this guy's basically the only option on San Jose, and he's out there, right? He's playing over 20 minutes a night. He's power play 1, whatever that's worth on San Jose. They got Kalen Addison now, so there you go. He's gonna tune him up, right, Nate?
Yeah, I mean, he's already getting the same treatment in San Jose that he got in Minnesota. I think he was under 16 minutes his last game, so yeah. I'm still not excited about Addison.
That is wild. I mean, where there's smoke, there's fire, right? This guy can't play defense, and he's a defenseman. But like, go, what Kalen Addison needs? He needs a position like midfield. Like, just kind of stay in the middle and just go back and forth. You're not getting into the ozone, but don't go all the way back. I don't know where I'm going with this, but yeah. After that, you can pick up William Eklund. He's out there, 2% rostered. So, he's going to get some offensive chances, but I mean, the Sharks, they did truck St. Louis the other night, 5-1. That was a bit of a shocker because St. Louis has been playing well as of late. So that was a surprise, but yeah, Eklund's out there. I don't know if we have anything more on San Jose. If you want a banger, you can go get Mario Ferraro. Yeah, beautiful man with a beautiful mustache. And then lastly, the Vancouver Canucks, 4 games, 2 off nights. As we said, you're looking at Ilya Mikheyev and Connor Garland on those teams, 15% and 9% rostered respectively. Again, we talked about Mikheyev last week, or maybe it was 2 weeks ago. Yeah, I was off last week. But yeah, Mikheyev's great under the hood. He's got some good numbers. He's a really fast skater. He's just not getting really the deployment, right? The top power play there in Vancouver is on for most of the time. So, you can get some decent points, but I mean, there's probably better streamers out there than what you can get from Vancouver. I don't know. Any thoughts on the Vancouver Canucks there, Nate?
Yeah, nothing too much. Obviously, anybody that's playing with Pedersen or Miller right now is somebody you want to be interested in. Garland was the guy who replaced Kuzmenko on the top power play in the last game, so that's why he makes the list basically as next man up there. So Yeah, you can do worse, basically, I guess, is what you would come down to. Garland actually does have some pretty nice underlying numbers the last little bit, so he's got that going for him as well.
Just a glowing review. You can do worse. You can that's it's on their business card. So anyways, those are the teams with 4 games and 2 off nights. There are 2 teams as well that have 3 games and 2 off nights. So obviously these off nights are valuable, right? With such a stinky week. So we're looking at the Arizona Coyotes and the LA Kings. Let's start with Arizona. Nick Schmaltz. He's somehow rostered less than he was before. I don't understand. I mean, I know he's not blowing the doors down, right? But he's a streaky player too, 34% rostered. I think Schmaltz is absolutely rosterable. I think it's a great streamer for this week. I wish he'll get in on the off nights, obviously. So I like Nick Schmaltz. Logan Cooley, we talked about in the opening segment there. We'll have to see who gets that deployment. But I think Cooley should go up to line 1. Hopefully they do that. Travis Boyd? No. Oh my God. Or we could just stream in Travis Boyd, right, Nate?
I will not be doing that.
No. Okay. All right. Nate is putting his stamp of disapproval on that. We got Lawson Krause as well, who's available, 27% rostered. And unfortunately, Jack McBain was injured. Oh, no. I didn't think he could get injured. I didn't think he could hurt Steele, but apparently, they have like the Infinity Gauntlet or something. I don't know. Something's happening there, but they took Jack McBain out of the picture. So, anyways, I don't know. Tell me, first off, Nate, what do you think of Nick Schmaltz? Give me your take on Schmaltz.
Yeah, I think Schmaltz has been a really consistent, just under point per game player for the last 3 years now, and it seems like nobody's noticed at any point in the last 3 years that he's just this guy, and that's who he is, and that's what we should expect moving forward. Skating 20 minutes a night, like he's only got 3 assists his last 5, so that doesn't look great. But I mean, it's Nick Schmaltz, and I have no reason to expect that he's going to do anything different than he's done at any point in the last 3 years. And what he's done in the last 3 years has been a 75-point pace player. So I can't understand, honestly, why Nick Schmaltz is only 34% rostered. I think he's one of the most underrated players in the entire league.
He's the Rodney Dangerfield of fantasy hockey. He gets no respect. All right. Do you get that reference, Nate? Do you know who Rodney
I do
Dangerfield
get
is?
that one.
Okay, sweet. All right, that's fine. All right, you're on notice, Nate. I'm telling you that right now. All right, and let's talk about the LA Kings. Obviously, Quentin Byfield we talked about. Nate is big on that player, and I'm starting to get there too. 38% rostered for Byfield. He's playing on Power Play 1. I think he's a great stream for this week. Again, only the 3 games, but you're going to have players benched anyway, so it's not a big deal. Trevor Moore, 32% rostered. Metrics under the hood looking good. We like that about Trevor Moore. They kind of roll a top 9 there in LA as opposed to a top 6. So he's going to get lots of deployment, and his power play gets reasonable deployment as well. He's on Power Play 2, I believe. Matt Roy at 19%. I don't really have a take on that player. Philip Deneau, 17%, and Arthur Kaliev at 3%. What do you think about these players here, Nate?
Yeah, obviously, Byfield is the one that I'm excited about. I just think the ceiling is potentially league winning, and anytime there's a
Nice.
player like that out there, I think that's something you have to take notice of. Trevor Moore, I do think, is a really nice streamer, 31st in individual scoring chances, 4 per 60 over his last 5 games. And yeah, I'm just always going to be willing to stream Trevor Moore anytime LA's got a good schedule. Deneau's underlying numbers are not good, but usually he's right up there with Trevor Moore for me. For this week in particular, just given the last little bit of performance from both these guys, I'd definitely be prioritizing Moore over Deneau if I had him. And then I'll always throw in Arthur Kaliev, decent numbers once again under the hood. 48th in individual scoring chances, 4 per 60 for Arthur Kaliev. So definitely lots of options from LA for this week if you're in a deeper league.
Nice. And that's it. That's it for our streaming segment. Nate, why don't you take us through some of the best players to stream, for certain categories and long-term stuff?
All right, let's talk about, first off, I'll just go through my rankings, I guess, for all the players we talked about just now. I'll just give you my quick ranking. For this ranking, I am assuming that you're really only getting these players in for the 2 off nights that they each have. So all of these players have 2 off nights in the upcoming week, and I'm assuming that there's no way that you're going to get them in for the 14 game and the 15 game slate, the other 2 games that they might be playing, 2 nights that they might be playing on. So all these players in the end kind of look the same to me. Whether they have their team plays 4 games or 3 games on the week is kind of irrelevant. I'm really only looking at the off nights here. So at the top, I have Nick Schmaltz. Pretty obvious after I just waxed philosophical about how underrated he is. He makes the top of the list here. He's been on my long-term players to add for basically the entire season and will be until he gets over 50% rostered, and I can't put him there anymore. So Nick Schmaltz at the top, Quentin Byfield right behind him. I don't think I need to say any more there. Then I've got a little bit of a tier here, I guess I would say Ryan O'Reilly, Nazem Kadri, Logan Cooley. Kadri's looked pretty solid the last little bit. He's got 4 points in his last 5 games, 22nd in shots per 60. Looks pretty nice. So I've got some love for Kadri for sure. He's kind of stepped up a little bit in a way that not many of the Flames players have this year. So got some love there. Obviously, Riley hot right now, or O'Reilly, I should say, hot right now. Think that he's definitely worth the stream for this week and try to catch the tail end of that hot streak. And then Logan Cooley here. He obviously, it would be nice if Cooley gets the extra deployment. That would definitely like skyrocket him up this list if he was able to skate like 20 minutes a night between Schmaltz and Keller. I don't know how likely I think that is for a player this young, but if he did get that, that'd be pretty terrific. Under the hood, 17th in shots per 60 for Logan Cooley over his last 5 games. He's really starting to turn it on. Early on in the season, he was getting lots of assists, and that was nice, but he didn't have the individual metrics that we were looking for. Now those individual metrics are starting to come around, and that's pretty exciting for a guy like Logan Cooley. Then we get beyond him, and it starts to be a little bit more wide open. I would consider a lot of different players in here. So I've got it right now: James Van Riemsdyk, Thomas Hertl, Trevor Moore, Philip Deneau, and Ryan Johansson towards the bottom here. Yeah, I don't have much more to add on these guys. I think I've already said my piece. Thomas Hertl, I will mention, does have 4 points his last 5 games, still skating over 20 minutes a night. Definitely think that he's going to end up at the end of the season somewhere in the 55 to 60 point range, regardless of how bad San Jose is. So don't be scared off of Thomas Hertl just because of how bad San Jose's been so far. Any major takeaways or major disagreements that you might have with my rankings here, Blake?
No, love it. There's not much to say except you forgot that 2-point legend, Johnny Huberdeau. Oh yeah, he's gonna pop off. Book it. All right, but yeah, I don't even know where you'd put him. Maybe I put him over Ryan Johansson.
Sure. All right, move on. We'll do some hits and blocks, potential streamers, guys you might want to put in your watch list for next week. At the top, I've got Dakota Joshua. He's the league's leading hitter over the last 5 games. Right. So that's a nice little boost for him. Cole Smith from Nashville, Martin Pospisil, who I mentioned before, actually has some decent under the hood numbers, but skating only 12 minutes a night. So he's not really getting you the time on ice that you need for it to really matter, but has 3 points his last 5 games, 31st in shots per 60, 35th in individual scoring chances, 4 per 60, and he hits a ton. So that's nice for Pospisil. Carl Grunstrom from LA and Matt Roy also from LA. Roy is actually pretty nice kind of across the board. Has decent offensive stats. He's never going to have like a 50-point season, I don't think, but he can be in that 35 to 45 range maybe on a more consistent basis moving forward. So definitely Matt Roy providing you hits and also providing you a little bit of offensive upside to boot there. So I like that move there. For blocks, Mario Ferraro, like San Jose is going to give up chances against, and so Ferraro is going to step in front of a lot of pucks this year. JJ Moser, Nikita Okotiuk. I listened to somebody pronounce it, announcer pronounce it this afternoon to try to be able to pronounce it, and I still think I messed it up. But yeah, he's out there as well.
Good effort. Good effort.
Also on San Jose, so you know he's going to be getting lots of block opportunities. Chris Tanev, always going to be an option from Calgary, and Tyler Myers from Vancouver. Anything from this group here? You want to talk about your boy Dakota Joshua?
He's a beast. Yeah. But I mean, all these guys, just a crap ton of beef. Oh man, this is prime rib right here. These beefers. I got nothing. But yeah, it's always kind of fun streaming in like a beefer. I don't know. Like that's what I love about Cats leagues. Like, oh, I'm doing really well, but I need some hits and blocks. Bang! I'm gonna roster Dakota Joshua in a fantasy hockey league. Oh my god!
Yeah.
He is awesome though.
For sure. All right, let's keep rolling. We can talk about the best players to add for the future moving forward. Starting with forwards, top of the list, Nick Schmaltz. And second on the list, Quentin Byfield. Nice when the long term ads line up with the streaming schedules for the week as they do this week. So definitely, I think this is the time to go get those guys. Number 3, I've got Tyler Bertuzzi jumping into this list. I do think that Bertuzzi, what he's showing us now is a little bit more what we expected to see. Whether he stays with the Tavares and Nylander line or he moves up to the Matthews Marner line at some point, like either way, I think it's a really good situation for Bertuzzi at even strength. If there was ever an injury, I'm nearly positive he'd be the next guy up for power play 1, so you like that for him as well. If he's able to keep up anything like the numbers he's been showing as of late, he could have an even bigger ceiling than I projected for him. He could be up into the 65, 70 point range. So we'll wait and see before we make that call officially, but he's at least demonstrating a little bit more upside than I perhaps thought he had this year. Logan Cooley will be number 4 on the list, and Adam Fantilli will be number 5. You could flip-flop these guys a little bit. Fantilli's line with Marchenko and Voronkov got a ton of run in the last game. There was a quote floating out there from the coach, Pascal Vincent, that said, I think he said something along the lines of, I played Fantilli's line 19 minutes. I should have played them 28 minutes. So big praise for Fantilli. He had a 10-shot game. Like, he had a monstrous game. So I'm pretty big on Fantilli. You're going to have, as I mentioned, Columbus has that sweet schedule upcoming, not this week, but the week after. So if you get into Fantilli in this upcoming week somewhere, maybe just for the Sunday game, and then get into Columbus, that Columbus schedule the following week, that's going to be a nice entry point. And I do think that Fantilli's exhibiting that he has star potential, that he can be potentially a superstar in this league, and doing that at a really young age is pretty exciting. And then Logan Cooley, as I mentioned, the underlying metrics the last little bit, really, really good. So I'm excited about that player. We'll obviously see if he gets a little bit more deployment. That would really start to pique my interest even more on Logan Cooley. Sub 20% rostered, still got Sam Bennett here, and sub 10% rostered, still got Kirill Marchenko here. Marchenko being 8% rostered is a crime against humanity, in my opinion. He is an absolute beast, and I will not be swayed otherwise. 13th in individual scoring chances, 4 per 60, and 21st in on-ice scoring chances, 4 per 60 over his last 5 games. Yeah, I love me some Kirill Marchenko. And I think that he's going to be a big part of Columbus turning this ship around if and when that happens this year. From this list, Blake, anybody stand out to you that you're excited about? Anybody that you disagree with?
No, that was a great breakdown, and I love the bit on Fantilli and Marchenko. That's exciting stuff. Like, because this week is such a wash. Like, what are your thoughts on picking up a guy like Marchenko or Fantilli just early, like right now, beginning of the week? You pick them up and you just hold them for the week, and that's what you do. Like, do you ever do that when you're streaming your players in?
Yeah, if I look at my lineup and I'm like, man, I'm really going to get one game out of some peripheral guy, like if it's in a deeper league and I'm choosing between, am I going to stream James Van Riemsdyk this week, or am I going to grab Kirill Marchenko, who I think has real long-term upside and has a truly elite schedule the following week, then definitely that's something that enters into my mind. And yeah, depending obviously on my situation, how I'm doing in the league, how badly I need to win that week, all these kind of things factor in, but definitely it's something I consider.
Yeah, I love that.
All right, let's keep rolling with the defenseman. Zach Werenski still below 50% rostered. He's got points in 4 straight. I don't really know what more he needs to do to get rostered in more leagues, but until he gets rostered in more leagues, he's going to be at the top of this list. Owen Power, 49%. He dipped down a little bit this week. I'm not really sure why. Buffalo's got a good schedule with the Friday Sunday here at the end of the week, but Owen Power is still out there, so you can definitely go get him. And Owen Power has taken a step this year in my estimation, so I do like me some Owen Power, even with Tage Thompson out of there and some potential loss of offensive firepower. No pun intended, but I do think that Owen Power can overcome that. Bowen Byram's still going to be on this list. I just think the world of Bowen Byram as a talent, 28th amongst defensemen, individual scoring chances, 4/60 his last 5 games, just a 1 goal to show for it. I think Colorado as a team has been scuffling for a little bit, but they seem to get a little bit untracked earlier in the week. And so I'm hoping that continues, and that Bowen Byram, who's now up to 21 minutes average time on ice the last 5 games, where earlier in the season he was down in the 18-19 minute range. I'm really hoping that this is just the start of even more for Bowen Byram, and he can kind of take that next step. Torrey Krug finds his way onto this list with a big little run of games the last little bit.
That's an
Yeah,
oxymoron. That's like jumbo shrimp, right? All right.
that is true.
All right, that's where we're going.
But he's got 6 points his last 5 games, fourth in shots per 60, fifth in individual scoring chances, 4/60, 17th in Corsi, 4/60, 11th in scoring chances, 4/60 amongst all defensemen his last 5 games. Torrey Krug is doing it right now. I don't know how excited I really am about Torrey Krug. It's hard to be super excited when you've seen it not go so well in the last little bit, but also we know that Torrey Krug has a history of being terrific in Boston, so maybe there's something going on that's finally clicked that switch for him, and things are going to be better moving forward from here. As I've mentioned a few times, St. Louis has been much more willing to load up the top power play this year and give Torrey Krug all of that time. And so that will make a huge difference, obviously, for his fantasy production. Overall, I think Krug is definitely worth finding out, basically, at this point. If you're hurting for defensemen, you're looking for a fourth defenseman, whatever the case may be, Torrey Krug is definitely worth the ad to find out at this point if there's something to this little hot streak that he's got going. Eric Gustafson will be the fifth player on the list, and he's just going to remain here until we have a really definite timeline on Adam Fox returning. So I think Gustafson, as long as Fox is out, is a terrific player to roster as well. Going down below sub 20% rostered, we'll say Jarrett Spurgeon here. It gets real slim below 20% rostered, especially if you're looking for points. But Spurgeon is at 19%, and then sub 10% rostered. I'm going to throw out Damon Severson here, just because I think he's a pretty good 5v5 defenseman. Will generate some points. He's got 3 points his last 5 games, and the underlying stats are not terrific, but they're not terrible. 55th in on ice Corsi, 4/60, and 34th in scoring chances, 4/60, skating 23 plus a night. So you can do worse than Damon Severson if you're in a super deep league. Your thoughts, Blake?
Yep. Obviously, Werenski is this is criminal. This doesn't make any sense. 48%. I'm shocked by that. Yeah, he's not scoring goals, so that's a bit frustrating. But I mean, who cares? The guy's got points in 4 straight. He's playing a ton of minutes. That team should figure it out, right? It's still early enough, but it's been rough in Columbus, that's for sure. And then I like Eric Gustafson a lot. I picked him up in a bunch of spots, and yeah, the return's been excellent so far. So 30%, I'm hoping that goes up a little bit more. Obviously, they had a 1-game week here, so he was a drop really, but you should pick him back up if he's out there.
Sure. At goalie, I've got Elvis Merzlikins, Connor Ingram, and Philip Grubauer at the top of the list. Honestly, I think it's a pretty rough time to be picking up goalies right now. I'm not excited about any of these options. They've all got warts at this point. People are dropping players. Like I picked up Stuart Skinner when he was dropped in the Experts League, actually. And so that's feeling pretty good right now. But I honestly don't have any illusions that it couldn't just be terrible once again next week. So, yeah, goalies continue to be a confounding factor. But we continue to ride and find these diamonds in the rough with the 0G strategy. So right now, I do have Merzlikins at the top. I think Merzlikins is actually playing pretty well, but Columbus is just such a tire fire right now that he's just doing the best he can. He's seen 40 shots against in 2 of the last 3 games, and the other game was 32 shots. he's doing pretty well. He's got a 900 plus in each of those 3 games, and he's getting volume. So if your league rewards volume for your goaltenders, then he's at least doing that much for you. So I think Merzlikins is actually playing pretty well at the moment. It's just a Columbus thing right now. If and when they do get that figured out, I think Merzlikins actually has some ceiling, which is why I'll keep him at the top of the list here. Connor Ingram is just going to be that guy. I think he could unseat Vijmelka at some point if they ever do decide to go to an actual, not like anything other than just alternate every other game, which is what they've done for pretty much the entire season. Ingram in his last 5 starts, 4 of those starts, he's had a 921 save percentage or better. He's seen 30 plus in all 5 starts, and he's only really got 1 start that wasn't great, and he still won that game. He's won actually all 5 of his last 5 starts for the Coyotes, so do think he probably gets rewarded for that at some point. Then Grubauer, I'm not excited about this, but he did win the game against the Islanders. We'll see if he gets the game against Vancouver on Saturday, and we'll go from there. Your thoughts on the top 3 here, Blake?
Yeah, I mean, I've had all of them at one point in the season here, which is and I've dropped all of them at one point in the season. So yeah, I agree with everything you said on Merzlikins. I think Grubauer has the edge there in Seattle. So if I'm rostering a Seattle goalie, it's going to be Grubauer. But yeah, it like you said, slim pickings for goalies. I'm interested in your sub 25 goalie. I want to talk about this guy a little bit.
Yeah, that's going to be Charlie Lindgren. Purposefully let him slip to the end here because I do want to talk about him as well. His last 3 starts have all been terrific, 923 or better, including a shutout of the Vegas Golden Knights in his last outing. That's really good stuff from Charlie Lindgren. There was a quote that came out that a coach was talking about, man, I need to get Lindgren into more games. He's been terrific. And that was even before Darcy Kemper had this little injury. Sounds like Kemper is going to be back, but even before that, they were just alternating games 1-for-1. So I think Lindgren really does have a chance to be a pretty solid option in most leagues, to be quite honest with you. Last year, he had a really hot stretch. And then just kind of went in the tank after that. So I don't, again, expect it to keep up with many goaltenders. I'm not really placing any expectations on Charlie Lindgren, but I am absolutely willing to jump on this while he's hot.
Awesome.
All right, let's get into the head-to-head streamer deathmatch.
Deathmatch to the death. Oh my God, let's get to business.
Absolutely. So the season record is 3-1 for Blake, and unfortunately, he's leading me once again through no merit of his own, I will say. Josh picked your streamer for you last week. He picked Kirill Marchenko just to spite me, and so far it's been working out. Marchenko has 9.5, a couple points in 2 games so far, and he's got 2 more left this week yet, so I do think that he's probably going to outperform my guy Jaden Schwartz, who had 7.25 in 3 games so far. I'm gonna need a pretty big game from Jaden Schwartz to take this one. Maybe it'll still happen. We'll check in again on Sunday, but it's trending well for you, we'll say. So this week it is back to you, good sir, to pick your favorite streamer. Obviously, with this, we can't really pick. There's not a really good way to distinguish between the off nights and who to pick from there. So it's going to be any team that's playing 4 games this week. Blake, who are you going to take?
Oh my. Well, first off, I have to say Josh and I are we have synergy. All right. What Josh thinks, I think, and vice versa. All right. So that would have been my pick as well. So I'm taking the dub if it happens. All right. All right. You know what? I got to be smart here because I want to build a big lead here. I'm going to take Ryan O'Reilly. I think I got to go there. I like the deployment. Obviously, he's redlining right now, but I just want a guy that's out there. He played 7 minutes on the power play the other night. So and I love Philip Forsberg. So anyone playing with Philip Forsberg and over 20 minutes a night is good to go for me. All right. What say you, Nate?
Yeah, I've still been debating this one all the way up till the last second. O'Reilly was definitely in consideration. Kadri, another one that's in consideration. Also, honestly, Schmaltz and Byfield, even with the 1 game less next week, just because of how much more highly I regard them as players than
Do
most of the
it.
other
Do
guys on the list. But it is tough to handicap yourself by a game played. So in the end, I do think that I'm gonna go with Nazem Kadri for this week. All right. Well, before we get out of here, I do want to take 1 second and plug Discord. You should definitely get in there if you like talking fantasy hockey or just hockey in general. We do a lot of that in the Apples and Ginos Fantasy Hockey Discord. Get your buns in there, get your biscuits in there as well, and we will chat fantasy hockey all day and all night with you. You should also be checking out on applesandgenos.com. You should be checking out the daily stat summaries posted by at 18 skaters, Mark Barber, the legend himself. Get into that, get that goodness into you. He posts really good summaries of all the events of the previous evening's games. So get that into your system, make that a part of your routine, your fantasy hockey routine, and I promise you will enjoy the results. If you need some more assistance, if you need somebody to just give you good feedback all the time on your team, then you can check out the Apples and Genos Patreon, $5 a month, and I will answer any question you have, guaranteed, about your fantasy hockey team. And if you're watching on YouTube, like, subscribe. That really does help. If you're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, whatever your podcast app, if you could give us a rating and or review, that really does help us get this out further. We continue to have the ongoing battle between the Apple Podcasts and the Spotify users. Spotify has responded. It's been kind of a give and take the last little bit. Spotify users have responded and bumped up the numbers once again, but I believe in you, Apple Podcasts listeners. You can definitely push the wave back in the other direction. All right, that's all we got for this episode. Hopefully, it brought you some value, helped you get a little bit better at fantasy hockey today. All the advanced stats you heard today came from Natural Stat Trick, which is a terrific free resource. Many thanks to the band there for supplying the music for the podcast. Be sure to check out their Spotify as well. That's it, folks. Much love.